Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce Mona Lovato today for several reasons. First of all, she's an indie author just like me. This is the book that she published several years ago, Forever. And also because her family is the owner of an iconic restaurant that I grew up loving back home called Emma's Hacienda. And the last thing is that we both shared love for Spain, and we've been there and traveled there and had some really cool experiences there. And I think both of us have parts of our books that are based in Spain. So just going to be a real treat for you guys today to hear about Mona and her journey and some of the cool stuff that she's done. And so I'll let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit more about where she's from. And maybe we could get started with your book. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, I'm Mona. Born and raised in Colorado, grew up in San Luis, so I was 18. Went to the city, went to college, dropped out, then started working for the state. I worked for the state for many years, Department of Revenue, Attorney General's office, and the community colleges. Then I moved back to San Luis when my son was born. Started working for social services, and I started part-time, and then I also worked for my grandma at my grandma's restaurant. But instead of going back as a waitress like we all did when we were growing up, I started cooking, and so it's when I learned all the recipes. Started in '94 till about 2003 when I moved back to Denver. And lived in Denver for a year, then went to Miami. And I came back 3 years ago. And so that's kind of like my life, where I've been, what I've done. So what else do you want to know?
Awesome. I know you've done real estate in the middle of all that. And I think it was in Miami when you kind of got the spark for writing and got inspired to do your book.
Well, I got my real estate license in 2003. That's why I moved to Denver so I can start my real estate career. But I met this guy on the internet, and he was from Miami. And I married him and moved to Miami. So that's what took me to Miami. But the writing, basically, I've always kind of, I've loved writing. Since when I was a teenager, I loved poetry. That's what I wrote. I loved reading books, magazines, but I never saw myself as being able to do what I was reading. I never pictured myself as that person behind the words. And then in 2002, when I was still in San Luis, I met a man on the internet from Spain, and I fell in love, and he inspired this story in me. He used to call us vampires because Spain and Colorado are 8 hours different, and so he would be up late at night, or I would be up late at night, so he would call us vampiros. And then one day, my brain's always going, and always analyzing and always thinking, sometimes worst case scenario, what would I do in this situation? My brain's always just kind of like that. It still is, probably even more so now. And I thought one day, if something were to happen to him, how would I ever know? How would I find out? What would I do? What would be the steps to go find him, to find out what happened? Who would I call? And it's kind of when the idea of Forever came to my mind. And because it was like, what I thought was, what is like the most, what's the greatest thing you could do for love? What would you do to save the person, to find the person? When you're in love, you'll do anything. And so one day I was at my sister's house. My sister was there, my nieces, Desiree and Rochelle, Rhonda, my sister-in-law, they were there. And so I had this story going in my mind, and I thought, I needed verification that it was a good story. And so I said, hey, you guys, you should see this movie I saw. And so I told the whole story, you know, well, not all of it, because there's parts of it that came to me probably at the very end in Miami. But so I told them the story, and when I was done, they were like, wow, what was the movie, you know, and you know, what's the name, we want to see it. And then I said, that's my story, you know, I came up with that in my head. It's just a story I want to write. And they're like, oh, you know, it's really cool, whatever. So that kind of gave me like a push to know it was okay. And sometimes, you know, we need that, like verification. Sometimes we look for that. And it's sad because if they would have said, I probably would have never wrote it, you know, because, I mean, our dreams either go forward or they stop based sometimes on people's reactions. And they, you know, and then, I mean, that's another story. But I thank God that their reaction was that. And so then I moved to Miami and got married, and I was kind of like lost in marriage because I was trying to forget Spain. And then I kind of found him again, my Spaniard. And it was like I fell in love all over again. And I remember watching The Notebook. And there's a part where Noah sees Ellie in the restaurant with her new boyfriend, and he's, you know, sad because she's with someone else. And so he goes back to the house, and there's something in the story that says that he knew if he completed this, if he finished the house, she would come back to him. And it was his labor of love. So this is what, you know, I call this my labor of love because it really, I mean, my heart wrote this, and I can't even tell you when I wrote it. I remember editing it and everything, but, you know, so then I fell back in love, and it had to be completed. And then I got cancer. Oh, no. So it was done, but then cancer came into my life, and I didn't know if I was going to live or die. And it was in April 1st was the day I met him, and it was 13 years prior to that April. And I knew I had to finish it because if I died, then he would never read it. And it was for him, you know, this is for him. And I get all emotional. But so I kind of like threw it out there, really. I gave the editor, I think 2 or 3 days to edit it. And she did it and sent it back to me. And so the first thing I did was the Kindle edition. And then in August, which are other special days, I finally got the first copy in my hands. And that's forever.
That's awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about just the plot line of the story of the book?
Without giving away the secrets, it's about a girl named Mia and someone she meets. His name is Nicolas, and they both have connections to Spain, and they meet in Miami, and they fall in love. And then she gets sick, and it's an illness that is only found in Spain,
the cure,
in this area in Murcia. And so he goes back and he hunts to find a cure for this. And it's just basically what he does to save her. Because, I mean, what would you do for the person you love most, you know?
Right.
And so you have to read the book. Because, I mean, there's, like, I talk about how it was made, but I don't want to tell you what how he saves her. Because that's part of the story and part of the intrigue and part of your wanting to know more. Like, is he going to save her? You know, she gets pregnant, she's dying, and you just have to find out if he saves her or not, you know?
Vampire story, right?
Yeah, but see, that's the plot. That's like kind of, yeah, Los Vampiros. the vampiros, and that's why I got it. I mean, that's why, I don't know, to me that's like eternal love. Like, you know, it's a fantasy, but it's a good fantasy to love forever. You know, when you love someone.
It's not just one story. It's a trilogy, correct?
Yeah, and so the next one will be Whispers of Forever, and that's the prequel, and I'm working on that slowly but surely. And then the third one will be A Day Past Forever.
A Day Past Forever. Nice. Well, I can't wait to read the other two. I've read the first one, and it was a fun story. You're right, and you know, for me, romance is always fun. That's how I look at it, and it does have a lot of mystery, a lot of intrigue, and like I said, I'm excited to hear the prequel. There's some, you know, unanswered stuff. I want to find out what happens. So.
And you know, like this book, and I know your series is basically to try to inspire people and to let people know, you know, what others can accomplish, have accomplished, what they can do. And what I believe is, like, I didn't go to school to be a writer. I didn't finish college. I took Miss Evange's English classes, you know, and I liked to read. And
Angie Salazar, great teacher from Sunday.
Yeah. And so it's like, you don't need a college education to make a dream come true.
No, I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that, because forever I thought that I was going to have a PhD to write the book that I wanted to write, and that I needed that kind of a platform to be able to get it out there. And I fought it for the longest time, you know, and until I finally realized that everything that I needed to get my book out was already in me. I just had to start, you know, and once I started, the floodgates opened. And so it was written, the story itself was written in a month and a half. And it's because it had been brewing for a long time. And so you, if it's in you, and if that's your talent, don't fight it. Don't wait. I don't know why I waited so long, but it took me, you know, that roundabout way to get there. So,
and you know, I don't punctuate well. I try to be a good speller. All I did was have the story and put it together and just, you know,
But that comes later. The editing comes later. It's getting the story out. That's the most important part.
Yeah, true.
You can fine tune all of that other stuff. You know, that's the
part. Changing or adding, and because you come up with these ideas. And when did I think in December, I said, I'm going to do it, the last edit, I'm going to read it the last time, and I'm not going to make any more changes, and I did. And because I didn't want to touch it anymore. Because I knew if I kept touching that, I would never finish the other stuff. And then, you know, translating it to Spanish was like, one of my top priorities, which I still haven't done, except in April, which was 18 years since I met him, and he was in la cuarentena, you know, their quarantine. And so I translated it on an online translator that something's really came out weird, but it didn't come out perfect, but he understood it, and he finally read it, and that was like the goal, you know. So he read it, and his reaction was not one I kind of burst my bubble, his reaction. Because throughout the whole book, he was so impressed with my creativity, you know, how did I think of these things, all those types of questions, but he was sad at the end. And so I had to look at it again, you know, and like his reaction wasn't, oh, you have to finish the next one. I think that's what I was looking for, and not sadness, you know. But that's him. I mean, that's the type of person he is. And so I have to, and I appreciate that. I appreciate his honesty and everything. And yes, it is a sad ending, I believe, you know, because it doesn't end perfect.
Yeah. But that's, you know, that's how some stories are. And then you've got the prequel, and you've got the A Day Past Forever coming after that, and so the story will be complete, and hopefully after that he'll have a better reaction. So I'm gonna switch channels a little bit and talk a little bit about Emma's and the iconic legacy that Emma's is for our hometown, San Luis. And I know that you brought it back to life, and you're in Alamosa now. And so tell me a little bit about that and how things are going.
Well, okay, she had the restaurant open for 60 years. My mom worked there. We all worked there. Growing up, like I said, we were waitresses. My mom started cooking there in the 70s, and so she worked, alongside my grandma. And then my grandma got old, and it closed. And I always had in my mind that I wanted to bring that food back because I knew how important it was. People always mentioned it. And I remember when I was in Miami, I would ask questions about my grandma's food, and those would be the posts that I would get the most comments, the most likes, the most whatever, most interest. And I never thought, after probably the second year in Miami, I didn't think I would ever come back here. And then I came back for another reason, and I said when I came back, I was going to sell burritos to pay my bills. And I knew I would sell my grandma's recipes, her burritos, not her recipes, but her burritos, the recipes for the chilies and stuff. But I started looking for a commercial kitchen because I was afraid that someone would report me for selling burritos out of my house. So my sister saw this place, and we opened a restaurant, and we've been in business almost 3 years now. People are happy. I get happy when people are happy, and they tell me like the coolest comments sometimes are like, just taking that first bite takes them back to the old restaurant. So to me, it's like, and I'm very loyal to my grandma, and like how she did things and how she critiqued us. And I mean, it was like, that stuff is like super, super important. Like her recipes, the red chili, I still make it in the same pan I made it in the very first time. And I use the same recipes. I mean, and you know what, like we don't cook like with a cup here, a teaspoon here. It's like a puño and a spoonful and a pinch, or a little handful of salt, or a little bolita de lard, or whatever. That's how we learned, or that's how I was taught, and that's how I continue to do it, and that's how I'm showing Anthony to do it, and that's how I write my recipes. And because I have a recipe book for him, for if someday he has to make the recipes, he has it all down. And so it's it's been fun. I've met a lot of interesting people, good people in this. And I don't know. Now with Corona.
Yeah. What? I was just going to say, I was so excited that you guys opened again, and I had to go eat there. So I was in Denver, I think, when I think your mom opened an Emma's near the Bronco Stadium. And I was so excited. So we went and ate there when it opened, because taco specials are my favorite. And it does take you back. That was like one of the best memories I have in high school, is going with my friends and eating a taco special and having a 7-Up. And that was the thing that I did all the time. And just the chile, the sopapillas, all of that stuff. And so when I found out that you were opening up in Alamosa, we went down there, and of course we had to go eat there again too. So I think there's so many people that are excited that the restaurant is back in business. And I have heard people say, oh yeah, we used to stop. You're from that town? Every time we go to New Mexico, we'd stop at that restaurant. And and sometimes they couldn't remember the name, but they knew exactly where it was, in the corner, that area. And so yeah, it's definitely a legacy in our hometown. And so I'm glad it's back. And excited that you guys are thriving in your business. So yeah, so tell me a little bit about how how this COVID thing has affected you and what you all did to kind of get through.
Well, when it all started, I talked to my friend in Spain all the time, and I started seeing what was happening there, and I was reading about it, seeing what was happening in Italy, and I thought, like I'm always thinking ahead. I'm thinking, oh no, this is gonna close us down. If we have to close for history, and so I don't know if I read something or I don't know how I came up with the idea really about doing the curbside delivery and people just coming picking up, if we had to close down. And so we started that, and then we have these friends. They become our friends, through this restaurant. In fact, they have a really cool story. The very first restaurant that they tried to go to, because they were moving to Wild Horse Mesa, was my grandma's restaurant. But it happened to be May 18th, and my grandma's birthday was May 18th. And apparently when they went to eat, we were closed because we were going to have a party for my grandma. I don't remember what year they said it was. I think we were already in Miami, but I think so. Anyway, so they didn't want us to close. They didn't want us, they didn't want to see us having to close the business. So they started contacting their friends to donate money or buy gift certificates. And so what we decided was to make, they were talking a lot about the essential workers. And so I came up with this idea about essential. I was trying to come up with an idea, and one of the guys told me something about what was going on in Philadelphia and with essential workers. So we got the idea to make burritos for people with the money donated. And, we had a lot of people, residents from San Luis, people in Alamosa, people from Florida, from Texas, donating. And so we had 4 essential worker burrito drives, 3 in Alamosa and 1 in San Luis. And so whoever was an essential worker came, got a burrito, and sometimes we ended up with some, so we'd go to the stores or to the offices or the bank or wherever, just to give people burritos. But I think that brought us more business, really. People started knowing about us more, and so things are okay now. We're at 50% capacity, still doing curbside, and it's going okay. So
it's so cool. It's awesome that you planned ahead and thought about it that way. Because
that's what we have to.
Yeah, people appreciate you being there. So this is a legacy for your family, for the valley, and so I'm just glad to see it continuing. Yeah. So, quick question. So for everyone, this is going to be part 1 of the interview with Mona. Part 2 is going to be Cook with Mona. We're going to have our own little food network, Valley style.
Yeah.
But, yes, al tintin. So everybody stay tuned for part 2 with Mona and Emma's Hacienda. Tell us, where can we find Emma's in Alamosa?
Emma's is at 924 Main Street. If you know the Dell's building, Dell's Insurance, we're located in that same building, catty corner from Trinidad State. So we're right on Main Street.
So everybody go out there, do curbside, go in and eat, and also pick up Forever on Amazon. So by Mona Lisa Lovato. And stay tuned for part 2. We'll see you then.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
What you're doing is awesome.
It's been fun.
Thank
See you soon.
Thank you everybody for watching. This has been a La Gente Legacy production and successful in the SLV series. Stay tuned for part 2 with Cooking with Mona, Valley style.